Angela Loria from the Author Incubator, here today for an episode of Ask A Bestselling Author with bestselling author Tammy Stacklehouse. She is the author of Take Back Your Life. It is a book for people with fibromyalgia.
Yep.
So, interesting question for you on today's episode is, do you think in picking a book you should focus on your interests, or should you be focused on reaching the widest audience possible?
That's a great question. In my case, there's sort of this intersection between what interests me and what interests my ideal clients. Now, that intersection is not necessarily the widest possible. Fibromyalgia is fairly common. It affects between 3 and 6% of the population, which ends up being predominantly women being diagnosed. So it works out to about 1 in 25 women. So it's a fairly good size market, right?
Do they know? Do 1 in 25 women know that they have fibromyalgia?
That's based on being diagnosed. So actually the number could be quite a bit higher. And of course that's just including, guys get diagnosed too. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's more like 1 in 83. But yeah, 1 in 25 is a pretty good number. But I didn't write a book that would reach 10 in 25, mm-hmm. right? So it's really hard to write something if you're not passionate about it. Mm. But it's also really hard to, writing a book about something that you're passionate about that isn't going to help anyone is kind of like...
Well, but I think the big decision here with you is if somebody who didn't have fibromyalgia, mm-hmm. even if somebody who didn't know someone with fibromyalgia mm-hmm. were to read your book, I would say, I don't know, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I would say at least 50% of the advice would at least not be terrible advice.
Oh, right. Absolutely. So, there's a whole section about how to work with your doctors, which totally applies to anybody because...
You might be doing less of it if
right.
you don't have fibromyalgia.
Right. But even if you just have a cold or a sinus infection or whatever, you still only have a 15-minute appointment.
Right.
And how do you make the most of that, right? There's a whole chapter on self-care, which applies to everybody. The section on managing your energy is a lot about managing your activities as well as just, managing
right, which if
fiber
you're an
energy.
Introvert, that's going to affect you. If you have
Totally.
kids, if you're a new mom.
Yep.
But I think if you wrote the book that was like tips and hacks for how to live life better.
Oh, yeah.
Like how would we get that into people's hands? Who would buy that?
No.
Like, I'm curious what this lady from Oregon has to say about managing my energy.
Right, not. But it's been really fun because I have had some people who have read it who don't have fibromyalgia. And in fact, the review that I am most proud of is it was from the office manager at my dentist's office.
Yes.
And she called me after she read the advanced reader copy. She called and she said, I need to talk to you. Give me a call back. I'm like, oh no. She totally hated it. What's going on? So I called her back and she said, I have to apologize to you. I was one of the people who thought that fibromyalgia wasn't real. I thought it was the thing that people just used as an excuse when they just didn't want to do something. And she said, I am so sorry. And that, to me, means everything.
Yeah.
So
my, biggest hack for writing a book is write about something you're passionate about, write for a small audience.
Yeah.
And you will be surprised at how many more people, like the way to reach the broadest audience possible is writing a book on a specific topic. And then your dentist office manager who doesn't even have fibromyalgia will pick it up, or a friend of someone with fibromyalgia will pick it up. You will reach more people by not
Absolutely.
trying to.
Yep, and I had so many people say, my friend with fibromyalgia recommended it to me, but I have lupus, or I have rheumatoid arthritis, or whatever it is. Yeah.
So good. So reach more people by being more specific. How are you going to do that? Let us know in the comments below. Like this video, share it with a friend, and join us for another episode of Ask a Bestselling Author.